Welcome to Managing Creative Studios. I'm your host, Susan Mann, and on today's episode, we're joined by Raymond McGrath, a writer, illustrator, director, musician, and educator. And over the years, Ray has worked on international animation productions, created award-winning children's music videos, and published beloved books like Big Little Blue and Kenneth Queenie. We talk today about his journey from hand-drawn animation to digital pipelines, the role of mentorship, and why mistakes really matter in the learning process, and also how relationships sit at the heart of every story he tells. I'm really excited about this one. Let's get into it. Welcome to the podcast, Ray.
Hello, Susan.
It's so nice to have you here.
Thank you. Thank you for asking me.
I'm going to start today, if you don't mind, talking a little bit about me.
Absolutely. That's the best. I'm relieved. Yeah.
So when I started out in the industry, in the creative industry, I did 2 years at art school and then I went to a more technical course and I was sort of learning 3D and After Effects and things like that. But I always sort of felt I'm not good enough at 3D and After Effects. I'm not good enough at the tools, 3ds Max and all this other stuff I was learning. I should be a concept artist or I should be a background artist or I was reverting back to what I knew because I didn't really have that confidence. And then I started my first industry job and I had the likes of you and Baz Barrable and Laban Dickinson and Fraser Munro and all these amazing people around who were sort of propping me up, making me feel confident like I could do it and teaching me things. And that was part of the reason I think I've had some longevity in my career and I haven't just sort of slipped away as many people do and go into something else. And so I feel personally that mentors are really important in the industry. And so I sort of wonder, in that particular organisation, maybe it wasn't formalised that you were a sort of mentor to the newbies coming in, or maybe it was, right. I don't know. But
no, not at all.
What's your thoughts on that?
Well, firstly, I think you might be giving mentors a little too much credit.
Yeah.
Because to be fair, like you just said that, longevity in careers and being able to last, it's not really due to much more than someone who has already got the drive and the desire and the talent and the ability. I mean, I think from a teaching point of view, I was never called a mentor. It was just as a role, whether it's directing or animation directing or overseeing a project, whatever that title happens to be, you're usually working with people, and usually those people have all got different skill sets and different sort of levels of knowledge, and including the director themselves and whoever else is involved. And so when you're trying to trying to sort of produce a product of whatever or create something with a team, it's just natural to, if someone's not sure about something or is not hasn't learned how to do something or is struggling with something, some part of the process, then it's we have a responsibility as people to share and help and encourage.
Yeah. And
some of that just comes from I wouldn't presume that I've got there's an element of talent that needs to be involved in it, but teaching is kind of, I like sharing ideas. I like seeing people do well. I like to watch people succeed, and it's just a personal thing. So I don't know whether everyone feels that way or other mentors have that sort of approach. But it's one of the reasons I work in teaching as well at postgrad and degrees, because when you come across somebody who genuinely wants to try and do something and you have a way to help them learn to do that, it's incredibly rewarding. And so, I like to share. I like to share knowledge. That's what I was going to say. I remember now. It was because no one told me.
Yeah.
I had to learn most things through trial and error and failure, and a lot of the work we were doing was on the cusp of technological change, like 3D was being developed and digital ink and paint, and it's been a long time, and so you had to sort of explore and learn and practice, but there wasn't a lot of people who would or even could teach you teach you a lot. So
I mean, you're very
yeah.
practiced in teaching yourself, right? Because you've had a show recently, I think that was Cinema 4D, is that right? Or am I making that
Yeah,
up?
yeah.
And you didn't know Cinema 4D before, right? You were just like, yeah, why not? I could do
Whatever.
that.
Cinema what?
But a lot of people would be...
You don't scare me, Cinema 4D.
Because you're traditionally trained animator, so pencil and paper, and then you use Maya as well, and Toon Boom.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I use it all. I don't really care. Yeah, whatever. Bring it on.
But a lot of people would be like, oh, I only use Maya. I don't do Toon Boom. I don't do 3ds Max. Like, why are you so adaptable? You just
am I? Oh, well, some of that's possibly necessity. So if you've got 4 kids to feed and there's a project that needs help and it's not a tool you use, but you've been asked to help, well, I think it's just important to suck it. Get on with it. Just learn it. But what I have, I think the one thing that matters the most, that I think a lot of people, I see a lot of students have this, I wouldn't call it a problem or an issue. It's just they have a mindset. And there's a thing around industry standards, for example. What is industry standard software? Or this studio is using that tool, or that one's using that one. The reality is they're just tools. You don't need... Learning software is not hard. You just need to understand that you can problem solve and navigate and find, especially now, you can find a lot of information about things anyway. You can search for answers to the questions that you have about what it is you're doing.
Yeah.
And so really, like, to take animated, like character animation, for example. If you know how to animate a character, if you know what performance and timing and all the sort of general principles of it, and you've got a sort of flair for that type of thing, it won't matter what the tool is you're using, because they're just ways to manipulate the image, whether it's 3D or...
I mean, it can make your job harder if you don't know the tool, though. A lot harder. I'm
about to start storyboarding a Canadian series in Storyboard Pro. I've looked at it about 10 years ago, and I don't particularly engage in it as a piece of software. But their pipeline is a Toon Boom Harmony pipeline, and for their pipeline, it's efficient to work that way.
Yeah.
I'll just use it. I mean, it doesn't... I think sometimes we can get caught up in preferences.
Yeah.
But most of those preferences tend to be familiarity. And the Cinema 4D thing, for example, it's still CG, and yes, some of the buttons are in quirky places that do the same thing, but then it's got these other features of it that you kind of go, wow, that's actually really good and really helpful, and that makes that part of the job easier. Yeah. And then you become familiar with it. Yeah. And so I don't know. I think knowledge in terms of the creative arts, foundation knowledge, how to draw, what is design, color, just painting, watercolor, whatever those, sculpting, any of those, anywhere where you're filmmaking, editing, screenwriting, just those foundational. There are. It doesn't matter what tool you use. Underlying it is these sort of very basic, sort of principles and skill sets that are just applied to these different technologies. And I think anyone who wants to learn or is presented with the problem of learning a new tool should not be concerned about it, because that is all it is. It's like picking up oil paints when you're used to using watercolor. Yeah, the first paintings will be a bit crap, and it'll take a while to figure out your own personal process and how you want to use that tool to express ideas or images or art or whatever. Yeah. I've rambled, haven't I? Do you feel like
if somebody's struggling with something and you need to show them how to do things, like, how do you teach people things but also sort of step back and give them space to grow and sort of
teaching? That's a really good question. It's a really hard question because it depends on the context. So like I started teaching on a degree, and about 6 years ago now, it's a while. And yes, I know things from an industry point of view, but that's not but telling someone how to do something, that's not teaching. That's actually just instructing. It's rote learning. You go do it this way because that's the way to do it, and you memorize that and you do it.
Yeah.
Teaching's a bit different, and I think even in the studio setting with animators, and I've even on my series with one of my best animators is he's come from teaching the same degree that I'm on, but he wants to do some more industry stuff. Fantastic, amazing artist, very capable animator, but a little lacking in confidence sometimes, and a little bit sort of unsure of whether what is being done is the right thing. And then when they hit a wall and go, I don't know how to deal with this creative problem, like dancing penguins, for example. Talk about that. Why? Why are you doing? Why? To teach anything, I think it's not so much about the how to do. It's about why you would do this way, or why you might not do it that way, or if you're looking at what you've done and you're trying to deconstruct it or dissect it into where are the issues, pulling it back into, well, why are you trying? What are you trying to do? You know, and looking for the problems within it, and then understanding why you want to do something. The students quite often, from a teaching point of view, not so much in a studio scenario, but they want to avoid the risk part of it, which is that I don't want to make the mistake. Like, I don't want to get it wrong. So I'm asking the questions so that I just want to know how to do it right.
But there's no right way to do it.
There isn't.
In the
It's impossible.
Space, there's no such thing as right.
No. Well, I mean, it's just subjective as to what that is, I think. In my experience, I mean, there is right and wrong. Like, there is, in the context of, sorry, not to contradict that,
you want to get a walk cycle,
right? Just clearly a walk cycle that's needed is not running. So if you so those things don't work. Or, but I think from a teaching point of view, because this is a big topic, like pedagogy and you know, I'm a big fan of threshold learning, which is in the classroom. Students hate it, but it's because you place them in a situation where they don't actually know what they're doing. They don't actually have the answer. They're not sure of where it's going to go, and it's very confusing, and it's quite frustrating, and it's very challenging. But from a teaching sort of research point of view, when someone is pushed to a point of what you'd call confusion, and it's not because you're completely confused, it's because you don't know the answer, or you don't know how, or even why, and it feels like you're in that space where you don't know anything. The minute you cross over into understanding, the minute that happens, it's a very significant learning moment.
Yeah.
So, which you don't get from going, there's a menu, press that button, do that, press that there, and voila, that's what it does. And then they'll just memorize that, but there's no emotional connection to the learning.
Yeah.
And things like, I mean, you don't deliberately try to confuse students, but you don't necessarily need to give them all the answers straight away. You don't give them all the information. You want them to find it themselves. You want them to...
Coming to your own understanding helps you memorize things better, right?
Exactly. Yeah. Learning through the mistakes. I mean, the mistakes and the errors and the failures, and of which I think all of us have thousands of.
Yeah.
They're the most memorable moments. They're the ones you learn the most from. So you try to create an environment where you're going, here's a problem in front of you. What would you do? Instead of going, here's what you should do, what do you think, is a really great question to ask someone who's trying to figure something out, instead of them relying on that information being given to them because they want to avoid the risk that's involved in getting it wrong. Yeah.
And what would you say are some of the most sort of challenging things that graduates are facing at the moment?
That is a multi-pronged answer. It's a list. The challenges are, am I learning what I need to learn to enter the industry in the way I want to enter it? So, for example, if you want to make cartoons, it's helpful to learn to make cartoons, but that's a very broad statement. What I want to be an animator is something I find an amusing title, because to be an animator is a very narrow. Like, to make a piece of media content, there's this stuff beginning to end, all the pieces that make it. Being an animator is just a very small part of that process, and a lot of people get caught up in that. The glory jobs, like animating, but like you, when we were working together, there's the background that animation is sitting on.
Yeah.
That requires, without that, there's no staged place to put your wonderful character animation that you might happen to be doing, or whatever that is. But then underlying that, there's the layout of it, and then there's the storyboard artist who hit the mic. There's a storyboard artist who's figured out what that shot is, and then and that's been based on a script that's been written by a writer with the help of a director, or in my case, writer-director, who you create the script. And they've also worked with actors to put all of these things are what make the thing people think they want to make. Like, from a graduate point of view, 3 years on a degree can't teach you all of that stuff, including the earlier question about tools. What is industry standard? Well, the industry doesn't even agree with itself as to what's a standard tool, because some are using Maya and some are using, Harmony is a sort of Canadian tool set that has sort of taken over a lot of digital 2D, but then you've got Cell Action 2D, and Bluey's made in that, and it's the biggest show in the world. So and it looks that you can't tell the difference between them. One of the challenges graduates have is, I think, a mindset around what it is they think they should know. And my view is, forget back to me learning Cinema 4D. The tools are relevant, actually. What's relevant is, are you a storyteller? Are you an artist? Are you a writer? Are you a business person? Producer. Without producers, we don't have the show to make anyway. There's a whole career based on finance for the animator, and that's why I find that such a narrow. Everyone likes the glory jobs, but and a director is only if they don't have a producer who's going to fund it. What's there to direct anyway? So it's kind of It's so I haven't even answered the question really, but the challenges are there. What do you learn? Like, what do you want to learn? What do you want to do? Where do you want to be? And I think that's a combination of talking to someone who you think is doing what you want to do. It's going out and seeing what else there is.
Yeah.
It's being involved in producing something on a team and finding out where you naturally sit and because not everyone's a storyteller, and some people are better at the technical components of things, and they're essential. The technical director on a production, you can't survive without them, because they're the one you go crying to when the tool won't work. And they're the ones with those solutions. Yeah. I personally gravitate towards the stories, and that's why I don't care what the tool is, and I don't look at style I'm only interested in what's the best way to approach this piece of content, not that I do things a certain way and that's what I do every time. And even I've had to learn, I've had to learn something over 30 years, which is, what is my style? Like, if I was to tell stories, what are they? What would they contain? I spend so much of my time emulating, work on a international production. You're drawing someone else's design, so you're drawing like them, not like me. Or
you brought this up on the podcast, Benny, asking people questions, and you said that you spent a lot of your earlier years drawing and animating in other people's styles, and it took you a long time to find your own style. So, was there a point where you did one particular piece of work and you sat back and you're like, I nailed it. That's my style.
Never.
Now.
Yeah. There it is. Woo! No. I wish. Far out. It's not. I'm eclectic in my interests. So like art, music. I don't mind the creativity in all its facets, and But I mean, my point is that I like different things. I'm interested in different things. I don't like to do the same things twice because that's not challenging to me. I like to be challenged.
Yeah.
And in that sense, so I think there's, but in the process of that, it's hard to have a distinct sort of style. I think the eureka moment you're probably talking about wasn't really a moment, but it was more of a realization over time that if you look at when I'm given my own free rein, so when I write a book or when I'm working on all of the graphic novels I'm doing at the moment, these 4 series, when I go to schools, do talks for kids at schools and part of story, sort of promoting reading and that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
I ask them a question. I show them a lot of my work, and I say, what have these all got in common? Almost all of them. There's 2 things in particular. One is it's almost always nature based. I don't like drawing trucks and motorbikes and technology.
I mean, we've got the Big Little Blue with the penguins, and we've got Kenneth and Queenie. You know, they're based sort of in a meadow, and it is very nature based. I hadn't thought about.
I like drawing. I like the natural world. I like gardening. I like I care about the environment, and I kind of. So that's one factor. I wouldn't do Akira. I couldn't come up with a technology based sort of. Maybe I could. Then maybe that's a challenge. You know, maybe I should try. But the other thing is the stories that I write almost always hinge on relationships. They're not really about. Like Kenneth and Queenie's a bee and a bumblebee, but it's not really about a bee and a bumblebee as such. It's about a relationship between these 2 characters who have different reasons for being and doing. Yeah. And it's when they get together, there's a connection that happens. And with that connection is the story. The story's in the relationships. It's not really that it's set in the future in a dystopian sort of other world. That's irrelevant to any story, to me. Yeah. It's characters' relationships to each other. That's where the story lies. Yeah. So all of mine are about relationships, friendships, about teaching kids in particular, because a lot of my content is for kids, showing kids the ways friendships and relationships look from my point of view. Yeah. The ways that they're flawed and nuanced and complex and funny and playful and frustrating and all of those real things. Because,
I mean, there are a lot of lessons in these books, which I was surprised about, which are really, really cool. I mean, I might as well talk about it now that it's in my hand. But, I mean, Kenneth and Queenie, so beautifully done. Like, the illustration is soft and sweet and really elegant. And then it's all about, like vomit and eating your own shit. And, I mean, I respect that, right?
Well, actually...
there's lessons involved in there as well. It's teaching you how honey is made and all these sorts of things.
Yeah.
It's really cool. Yeah. It's very well thought out.
Thank you. But Kenneth and Queenie's an anomaly, though, because when I finished the series... So, most of my story... all of my other stories are softer. And I actually really can't stand, cheap shot toilet humor. Yeah. Like, I don't like fart jokes, and I don't like it just, and I also don't like when content shoehorns in education. Yeah. Like shoehorns in teachy stuff. Kids are so smart. They smell a rat a mile away. Yeah. Kenneth and Queenie's a bit of... I did actually question who I was, like, who is this person? Because, but it just so happens that...
genius. It's genius. It's so subtle and well done, though, and also just, it's
I like
just not what
mix,
you expect from it,
Yeah, I think that's the thing. Like, I wasn't expecting it, and as a writer, like, if I put my writing hat on, as a screenwriter, I had this idea of... It was actually a knee-jerk reaction to not getting published, actually, which was I'd come up with Big Little Blue, and I was thinking maybe I should... I had a revelation where I was going... I'd put together Big Little Blue as a pitch. I wrote and illustrated the first book and wrote the other 2 books, and then I sent them into... I gave it to my agent, and while that was going on, I was going, why am I not making these? Because it's storyboarding and it's screenwriting. I love the graphic novel format because it's screenwriting. It's dialogue. It's not descriptive. I mean, bad graphic novel writing, in my view, describes the Marvel way is where they'll, from a writing perspective, is on the page, they'll describe the illustration, then there'll be the caption, then they'll describe the illustration. It's impossible to read because it's not in real time, whereas screenplays are read in real time. And so the writing for those was just dialogue driven. And I just had this idea of Bumblebee, who didn't like being called a bumblebee because it's such a weird name, and this bee, this not yet a queen bee. She's a princess, but she's just not ready for the responsibility of it, and is going out to see the world. And what would happen if they connected? One is fastidious about. He just takes the job seriously. The world will end if we don't do this thing. So he's just really careful about it, and it has to be done right. But then he's surrounded by a fly who's, a bit gross. And there's a dung beetle who's in denial about, he's a little bit embarrassed. It's not my ball of dung. I don't know I don't know where that came from. And, a butterfly they're unlikely friends. But then when you start putting them together, gosh, I'm rambling. When you start putting them together and giving them a moment, and then making them talk to each other and getting them to interact with each other, that things start happening. Yeah. And that's where, I didn't set out to write a story about how honey was made. It was just, I thought it just amused me, selfishly, that bumblebees don't make honey, so that would be a goal if I was. It'd be like, man, that would be so cool to learn. Flies would eat anything, so they go, man, that's like the holy grail of food. If I could learn that. Yeah. Queenie is a bee, so she knows, but she knows that it's actually a bit gross and doesn't want. It's a secret that they don't tell anybody because it changes everything once you know. And this recipe's written in dance because bees communicate with dancing. It's just like this random idea of going, if they learned how to make honey, how would she tell them? And she tells them in this way that's just ridiculous.
They've got great relationships with each other, these characters.
Kenneth and Queenie does have some gross jokes, but they're not, they just happened, and I'm surprised by them. And in fact, a writer friend of mine, Swapna, she read them and said, it's just not you. Your stories aren't that. Yeah.
Comparatively to this Double Dippers, which is the second book of third book of your Big Little Blue. This is really sweet, and it's very much about friendship and being kind to each other and things. And it's there's some beautiful things in there, but there's also lessons about nature in there as well, isn't there? Yeah, it's really, really well done. But yeah, it's stark contrast in terms of the content, but both really beautifully illustrated.
Yeah, thank you.
But when you going back to where you said that the relationships about characters was the most important thing, because you'd said that on that previous podcast that you've been on, that the relationships between characters are the most important things. And I had a big debate with my husband about this last night, because I was talking about whether the illustration was more important than the illustrator might be more important than the author. And he said no, and I thought maybe, because you think back to like A.A. Milne, who wrote Winnie the Pooh. Yeah.
Which I'm reading to my 5-year-old.
Nobody really knows the illustrator's name, right? He's not really a household name. Shepherd, yeah. But he's not really a household name in the same way that A.A. Milne is. And I wondered if the illustrator hadn't have been as good as he was, would the book have been as popular? I don't know.
I think that's a tricky. We could go down rabbit's hole in this one. But then
I wondered, because when I visualize that story, I know the characters from memory, but I couldn't tell you a single, day-to-day activity that they'd done or an adventure that they'd had, because I don't remember any of the story. I remember the characters. I see where you're coming from. Yeah. But then it's the relationships that you actually remember more than anything, because Eeyore's always miserable and everyone's trying to pop him up.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's the relationships.
Not exactly what he said, but that's who he is. Yeah.
So I don't remember the adventure, but I remember how the characters interact with each other.
There's an old sort of saying in terms of film, certainly animation, that good animation won't save a bad story. Yeah. And but bad animation can work with a good story. So that's the value of writers,
Yeah.
I think. From a picture book point of view, it's really interesting to me because I collect, I've got
Big reader.
a big reader. Yeah, we read constantly. But there are books that are beautifully illustrated that are terribly written. That you pick them up and you go, wow, this is a beautiful looking book. And usually from a customer point of view or a market point of view, we're drawn visually to things. And I think I don't have any sort of it's anecdotal. It's just my view. Maybe someone would like to research it somewhere. But I think as humans, our senses we're very visual first. We'll hear, see, we react to what we see strongly.
Yeah.
And so those sensory kind of things work quite well. Reading's not so much a sensory thing as such. So you'll see a picture book and the cover will catch. Or a book, it doesn't matter what the book is. But judging a book by its cover is a great point, but we do, and we always will, because we're drawn to that looks interesting. So the strength of illustration in picture books, or let's just say the strength of visual imagery attached to storytelling, written storytelling, is really important, but I don't think one is more important than the other, although the emphasis tends to be on the writer. But the thing is, the illustrators, it's a where it gets out of balance, I think, is when, particularly in the picture book world, if there's an imbalance between everyone talks about the writer, but they don't talk about the illustrator. So they go, that's a wonderful book, but they're not really, it's a visual experience, a picture book.
Yeah.
So I think your channeling is that component, which is that actually I remember the imagery more often than I remember what the words themselves actually were. But
then do you create the imagery out of, I mean, you are creating the imagery out of those words. You wouldn't be able to create that imagery without
it's a mutual, it's symbiotic. Yeah. So in my view, it's symbiotic. So, and it's really interesting because, like, if you look at writing, say, graphic novel, or in terms of visual storytelling in books, without the writer's story, then there's nothing to draw. There's no story that's being told. But often when I'm illustrating a book, I've got good relationships with my editors where sometimes I'll just go, can we change the writing? Because we don't need to say this. I can show this. I'll show this.
Yeah.
Let's remove, because it gets the problem with writers, not the problem, that sounds really patronizing. Writers' only tool is words.
Yeah.
So they can't draw or express visually what they want, so they use words to do it. And often, particularly in picture books, you can get too many words. So they'll overwrite, which is why a lot of publishers have a limit on the word count, 600 words.
Yeah.
You know.
So, I mean, I was looking at this one this morning, The Little Witch Who Lost Her Broom. Now, I mean, I couldn't find the New York Times bestseller, which is The Little Ghost That Lost Her Book. Yeah. So, I mean, it's same author, but I mean, it's beautifully illustrated in a really nice story. But there are pages like this one here, which has a cat in the foreground, and you sort of look through the cat's curves and through its tail through to the living room. And I thought, I mean, how do you make those decisions? Do you get told there has to be this many words on this page or this many words on that page, and how many pages there are? And then, like, what's that process?
For me, I mean, I can only really talk about mine because it might be different for others. It depends on who you're working with. Some publishers they have art directors, and the art director starts to dictate. So an illustrator will often work with an art director in certainly the larger, more international publishers, where they'll steer the book design.
Right.
In my world, more often than not, I'll be given this script. It'll be paginated, so that the editors will have pulled it apart into which text is on which spread.
Right, okay.
Beyond that, sometimes the author will describe what they want to see. Yeah. But more often than not, particularly with The Little Witch, they didn't give me any description. I just
So you know how many pages you need to fill in, and you know where the text is going on each page. But what if you want to do?
I don't know where the text is going. That's
right. Yeah. So you get to pick that as part of your compositional
Yes
design?
And no. Like I don't typeset. I put a placeholder of sorts from a design like a graphic design point of view, I'll go, the text, here's the area where the text will go. Because I've designed the illustration for it to be there. And that doesn't usually change very much. But it's a funny one to answer because it does depend on who you're working with. Scholastic in particular, I've just finished a book earlier in the year that they just didn't quite know what to do with. They wanted to publish it, but it was just a story it just needed someone, I think, they asked if I could have a look at it because it just needed a different perspective. It couldn't be illustrated in a traditional sort of way, meaning, a soft, beautiful watercolour like Freya Blackwood or Hilary Jean Tapper sort of styles just wouldn't work with the story. It was too crazy. It was just, and they didn't know what to do with it themselves, so they gave it to me and I did something and they were really happy with that. But there was a problem-solving exercise in design. It doesn't look like these books.
But you would have built up a lot of trust with publishers over the years. I mean, you've done a lot of books, illustration and
yes and no.
writing.
I mean, I think...
do you have to go to one... Are you signed on with one publisher in particular? Are there
no.
Are there turf wars between publishers?
I'll sell myself to anybody. Yeah. No. I believe... It's a bit like what we were just talking about earlier. I believe in the structure and the process, the importance of producers in... making media content, the importance of the people involved in the process. Publishers to me are an essential component of publishing and many people will try to bypass that. Yeah. So they'll self-publish.
Yes. I wanted to ask you about self-publishing or publishing in general. I was watching a YouTube video. Christian Fox has a lot of YouTube videos. He's an illustrator in the UK and he talks about sort of the advances that you get and the royalties that you get. So, I mean, he was saying, I don't know when this video was, but he was saying in the UK you might get £1,000 to £5,000 advance, and then you'll get 5% royalty if you're an illustrator, and maybe more than that if per book sold. Yeah. And maybe more than that if you're the writer. And then the real way to make money is if the publisher sells that idea to a third party who then makes TV shows and merchandising, and that's when you get about 50% of the royalties. How does that translate to New Zealand? Is that not at all the case?
Well, no, they're all pretty standard.
Yeah.
I'll take a brief step back and say about me with relationships with publishers. Publishers, I don't work exclusively, but I do tend to work with one or two. And that's because they're the only ones that are asking me to help them. So, but I also don't promote myself in any way. I don't really go out and look for things. So that's sort of that. But I wouldn't bypass it. I wouldn't self-publish anything because I think...
Why is that?
Because I think...
I mean, you wouldn't need to personally because you're so well known, but I mean, a younger person, like I do have a friend...
Does anyone does anyone here know? Yeah, no, I do. I think I am.
But I have a friend who has made a dummy book and she's really nervous about sending it to a publisher, and I thought, well, who cares? I mean, if they don't like it, you can just self-publish, right?
Absolutely. But I think... So there's a couple of things because we're on a slightly different tangent. From the thing about publishing is that you have to understand that it's all very well to making a book's easy. Yeah. You just need money. You create the stuff that goes in the book, and then you give it to a printer, and they print it out onto paper, bind it together, and call it a book. And you might get 1,000 of those books made, and there you are, voila, stuff to sell. Yeah. That's purely a money thing. You don't need to have any expertise in that. The problem is selling the book and distributing the book and getting the book seen by others and getting it into shelves. Now that's where self-publishing, I think, tends to fall apart because two things. This I disclaimer, this is my view, all right? It's going to be controversial to some self-publishers. But a lot of self-publishers don't do any self-rejection. So they have their one idea, or they've got this thing, kids are going to love this, or this is going to be amazing, and they write this thing, I've got a great idea for a book, and they write it all out. They'll send it to a publisher. The publisher says, look, honestly, it's just not quite what we're looking for, or it's not quite good enough, or yes, we would like to do it, but we want to make these changes, and they won't do it. Yeah, or they just get the flat out rejection and they don't believe in it. They go, well, they must be wrong. But publishers in the market, producers of the market. They're the ones that are taking the financial risk. So if you send them an idea and they say, we would like to publish it, it's been through 3 months of market research. So they've already looked at it and they've gone creatively. The creative team will go, this is a good idea. Let's pass it down the line.
Yeah.
And it goes through their systems and processes where they go, if by the end of it they decide, if we were to publish this, we think we can sell this many copies of it through their networks and distribution. So it validates the commercial viability of it, simply.
Yeah.
Now, that obviously there's going to be self-publishers or people who want to do this themselves who are going to go, yeah, well, this person, there's always examples of it being very successful.
Yeah, yeah.
But they are the exception to the rule. The majority, getting noticed is where your problems are. Selling the product is where the problems are. And one of the other reasons I think is because people think there's a whole pile of money to be made and they want it all. And they're not willing to share that with others who have
You get like
expertise.
70% or something if you self-publish, right, of the royalties.
Well, it depends on your self-publishing process. Like there are printers who publish, but all they're doing is printing.
Yeah.
And then they'll print your book and you'll pay they'll get a certain percentage of the sales of that. They'll distribute. They'll say, we'll package it for you. It's a bit like T-shirts. There are companies that print T-shirts and they'll put your design on it and they'll distribute it to your customers if they sell it through it's the same thing. But they're not marketing books. They're not necessarily, that's one angle of it. So it's a complicated thing. I mean, I personally prefer to have a team.
Yeah.
Because I don't have the headspace to sell and market. I mean, and I don't have one idea, and I also know enough to know that books also don't sell. So you can, if you invest all of your time and energy into one thing, then the odds are more likely that one thing's not actually going to be as successful as you think it is.
Yeah.
And that's where your risks lie.
And going back to the discussion on the royalties and things, what is an advance like if you're looking at it? If you're maybe not at your
Depends
level,
if
but
you're
if
famous.
you're
My advance
not at
is-
your level. If being
I'm not
famous,
no,
is
no,
your-
honestly,
but, if you're starting out, would an advance be what would you be looking at? Would you be
The same as your UK publisher, anywhere between $1,000 to $5,000.
Is there any time where they're
$5
like,
would be a very good one.
yeah? Would there be
From an
any
advance point of view.
any point where they might be like, oh, we're not going to give you an advance?
No.
They'd always...
Which is another thing that's really wonderful about publishers, from if that's the sort of angle we want to go down. They know how this works and they respect the process that's involved.
Yeah.
And in picture books, the illustrator usually gets a higher advance than the writer.
Yeah.
Because of the work that's involved from the illustrator's point of view. Like if you're a natural media illustrator and you're given a book and you're working in watercolour, in order to illustrate that book, you have to buy the paper and the paints and the materials, and there's expense to just do the work.
Yeah.
And that's what the advances are really for that type of work. They're to support you to get the stuff you need to do the thing. But it all comes back off the sales at the end. If the book doesn't sell, the advance is the last money you'll see.
Yeah.
If it does sell, then there's these ongoing things.
And then is he correct also about the difference between the royalties for illustrators and writers?
Usually it's just a 50-50 split.
Oh, really?
So like you can expect, it depends. I mean, some agents, if you're famous, then those royalties can be negotiated.
Yeah.
So like if you happen to be J.K. Rowling and you write a new book, there's a guarantee from a publisher's point of view that book is going to sell a certain amount, in which case they start to be able to go, famous people can go, it's going to sell.
Yeah.
I want this. And then that can be negotiated. People like me who are largely invisible and not very well sort of placed in that, unfamous, non-famous. Well, it's usually around the 8% mark for a book. Like in a standard contract, you would expect that the royalties to the creators would be around that 5 to 8%.
Yeah.
If there's a writer and an illustrator involved, it's just split down the middle usually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then, so what happens? You've got, a Big Little Blue is a, beautiful series of books. And then in a Scholastic write-up, I think you were saying a while ago that you had all these songs written and you've got this whole thing played out. Did you have everything written before you went and got a series? Firstly,
do you want to hear the story of Big Little Blue? Oh, yeah, we can talk about it. But yeah.
So, how do you go about that? Does a publisher come to you and say, I think this book would be a great series, or do you pitch that to them?
For me, I mean, I think we have to be really clear that a bit like, I think it's really important to understand that everyone has a different path. Mm. Yep. So some writers, for example, if they are well established and already, like Anne Doe, for example, is a well published, very popular children's junior novel writer. He could come up with, or they could come up with a new series concept and pitch it to the publisher, and they'll go, yes. Or the publisher would go, we actually kind of need a book like this, a series like this, and they might approach someone like that and go, we know you can deliver, we know you can write what we want. It's a very easy sort of understanding and relationship. If there's experience, they all trust each other and there's less risk there. So sometimes, yes, a publisher will do that. They haven't never done that to me, though. Beyond Illustrator, like they'll ask me to illustrate something. Big Little Blue is an example of the weirdness of my creative world, because way back when, I'll share you the drawing actually, because the monster, I noticed on the screen there was some monster music video. So I did these books a while back. 3 books, monster stories. They had songs and read-alongs and blah, 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 because it was a crazy harebrained idea. I'd actually written about 3 more of those books. And Penguin Random House, well, it wasn't Random House then, but Penguin, we got to book 3. I sent them in the next one and they just said, oh, look, nah, they're just a bit crap. No one's buying them and no one likes them.
Heartbreaking.
It is if you can't cope with critique, but I'm well conditioned to
hardened.
It's not even hardened. I think I just expect it. We used to, like in the studio, slight tangent, but in the studio, everything we did, we had to critique. We had to look at, is it good enough? Is it right? Does it work? Is it, can we improve this? Is this what the client wants? You always used
to tell me not to be precious about anything. Just chuck it away and start again.
Be prepared to throw it away. Yeah. So anyway, I had these 3 books. I had a whole pile of songs with it. And I kind of went, oh, okay, well, that's fine. I sent in I had 2 other book ideas and they rejected those. I think what was happening was that they had just gone, you know what, as a writer and an illustrator, you're not really fitting our brand and you're not actually selling enough. You're not popular enough. And so they were just going, it's too risky for us. Yeah.
Is it not somewhat their fault if it's not selling enough? Like, are they not?
Oh, we won't go into that.
That's never their fault.
I think it's I think it's everyone's fault. I mean, I think that is
because they take care of the advertising, right?
When you look back on them, I think they're good. Like an idea can be good, but sometimes it's just not good enough. And an idea can be fantastic, but it's just the wrong time. Mm. Like if I was to write a unicorn book right now, they'd just go, we've got like squillions of we don't need another unicorn book.
Yeah.
And there'll be a phase where no more unicorn books have been made, and then 10, 15 years down the track, someone will go, there's no unicorn books around. Let's make a unicorn. It's sort of that. That's how it works. So, yeah, they. If your book's not seen, Kenneth, our local bookshop, there's two copies of Kenneth and Queenie sitting in their graphic novel shelf, spine out, hard to see, in the corner because it's alphabetical. That's where my name goes.
Yeah.
I end up in the middle down the bottom every time, and they're still there. They have it. No one knows they exist. So there are, in that sense, and because I'm not an active marketer and I don't really like being in front of cameras, the selling of them is sort of in a way left to others.
Yeah.
And so it's as much my failing as anyone else's, and sometimes it's not even a failing. It's just that, if you look at the economic times right now, parents don't have a lot of money to spare to pay for to buy books. Libraries of most of my books, the most sort of traffic is through libraries.
Right.
So,
right.
and that's great. I bring it on. I'm not really trying to conquer the world. I just want to tell stories that matter. But anyway, Big Little Blue, off on a tangent. So, had these books, monsters, songs, what have you. Tried to get a couple of other books published, kept getting no's. And then I said, it wasn't that they're terrible ideas, I just didn't want it. And so I did this, me being me, I went, right, fine. I had a song called If I Had. And it was about if I had a watch, I'd give all my time to you. And if I had a crayon, I'd draw a picture for you. It was just this kind of concept. And I thought, fine, I'll just draw a penguin book. And I had these characters, not these ones. If I had a watch, I'd give I did this drawing, and they got scarves, and it's just a cute little drawing. And I sent that through and said, why don't I turn the lyrics of this song into a picture book? Don't care if we use the song, because that doesn't necessarily make it sell. Like, the gimmicks don't always work.
Yeah.
Songs translated into books, which is not what I do, can be terrible to read. Actually, they're not, because they're songs. They're not.
Interesting.
They're not. And the books that I've had songs with are supplementary songs. They're not the story, the words in the book set to music. That only works with Old MacDonald, I'm afraid. But so it's not necessarily a selling point to someone who's looking for a book for their kids that it's also got a song attached to it. So that's of no value to a publisher, because they sell books. And anyway, they rejected it. They said, no, don't like it. It's terrible. And I put it away for a while. And in the meantime, I'm writing silly songs with my kids, and just because I get ideas and I just try them out. And about four years ago, maybe, give or take a bit, I just wanted to try and get a series off the ground, TV series. And I just finished my second master's degree in screenwriting. And actually I was going to do that master's degree creating a TV series, but I ended up writing a film screenplay. So I was going to use that research project to develop a TV series, and I didn't, and then I ended up doing it in the background. And I just looked at this picture of these penguins, and I said, penguins. A bit like Kenneth and Queenie, I've got this old bumblebee drawing that I drew, which is based on rejections. I had a book called Bumblebee, still have it, but it's not published. And one publisher said they really love it, but don't like my drawings, so I redesigned it in a different way. That's Kenneth, actually. And then they said, oh, love it, but we're not going to publish it. And so I had this drawing of these penguins, and I thought, what if I can come up with a story with a series of penguins? And it was mostly just an experiment to see if I could, because I don't think I'm good enough most of the time. If not all of the time, I go, I think I can do it, but I don't really know. And so started writing scripts, or writing a sort of pitch concept for it. And then I started writing some songs, and I wanted to do some songs and incorporating them into the scripts. And I ended up writing 26 episodes. They were 5 minutes at that point. 26 episodes, had about 50 songs, demos and what have you for the series, and talked to Susie Cater about producing it. And she's an old friend of mine, wonderful woman. Yeah, she's amazing.
She is.
She's cool. Well, she's just been funded with her You and Me, so a whole new generation is going to get to see you. Yeah, she's amazing.
Nice.
But she looked at it and said, "This, yes." But then we realised we were the same kind of person, which is neither of us are very good at the business side of. No, she's good at the business side of it, but for what she's doing, but getting an animated series off the ground, which is what I wanted to do, was a bit hard. And anyway, getting broadcasters at the time, there was the TVNZ, TVNZ, New Zealand, RNZ merger that was happening, and then it didn't happen, and it just got complicated, and we couldn't get a broadcaster, which meant we couldn't go for funding, and then in the end I just went, don't care. Yeah. I just turned into some graphic novels. And so I wrote new stories as graphic novels, illustrated the whole thing, sent it into the publisher, and they said, yeah, we'll do 3. And then they sold that to Australia as well at the same time, which is kind of a bit, I was going, that's really unusual, because normally they'd try one first and see how it goes. But yeah, so, and then in full circle, I just happened to be introduced to Nigel McCulloch, who's a download, who's a producer, and he said, yeah, let's try and get it made, and now we're making the series. So it's kind of gone backwards.
So the episode's still the same length?
No, they're 7 minutes now.
7 minutes.
Yeah.
Right. And
but they're still the same stories, the same character, the same flavour. And going back to the style, like, you know, what's my style? They're just me being me. And I think it works. I don't know.
What are they made in? What software?
Harmony.
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 Oh, yes.
Yeah, but I've tried to design it so that they don't feel rigged 2D, you know, that bad 2D sort of puppety kind of.
There's no bad styles.
Yeah, there are. Yeah.
It's subjective, right? But
I don't know. Look, I think so. Yeah. I do.
So it looks very similar to the book, obviously.
It looks exactly like the book.
Beautiful.
Yeah, but with more cinematic depth. The difference between the printed page and screen, because what I was trying to do, like, I'm very interested in not doing what everyone else is doing. Absolutely love to not do what they're doing, because they're doing it. There's no point. It doesn't make sense. It's like, I think New Zealand as an industry as a whole wouldn't be, I know some studios have tried to do it, but I don't think it's a good idea to try and make a film like Pixar and Disney. Yeah. Because they're doing it, and they're doing it so well, and with such a team and behemoth of a industry business behind them, that you'd never compete anyway. It would always only be a second-rate version of it. We, in my view, are better off. Not better off, but I like it when we go, well, what's the alternative? And those are the Aardmans and the Leicas and the Ghiblis and the studios that are not trying to be those things. They're just trying to be their thing and do bespoke, unique, interesting stuff. That's the alternative to that, because that's interesting. And on the printed page, so we didn't end up doing it in the series because it's just the disciplines are different. Screen has a certain narrative, linear way that it has to work if you start straying from it. But I wanted to have white space in the design of the shots. So like in the books, they, from an illustration point of view, using the page white, negative space and all of that stuff is really valuable. And I love like painting white into things so that it sort of blends into the page itself. And I wanted to try and get that on screen, but it doesn't quite work. But those are the kinds of experiments where you're sort of going, well, it looks like this on the page. How can we emulate that in the work? And it's a challenge because there's convention. There's production convention where you know it's safe if you do it a certain way. But I'm not interested in that so much because I don't think anyone is moved by convention often, if that makes sense. So the stories are structured. One of the episodes has got a 1 minute, 1.5, maybe it's not 1.5 minutes. I think it's 1 minute long opening shot of two characters just sitting there talking about how boring it is. It's literally how it starts. And the shot's boring, and it's just a flat thing. We just slowly let them have their... And I like, in the show, in the episodes, the way I've sort of written and directed them is, and screen directed them from a storyboarding point of view, because I do all of that, backgrounds and songs, or I write all the songs in them, is I don't want to cut away from the character. I just want to watch them be themselves, and I don't want to... Some of the episodes are, all of the episodes really, we don't sort of present a problem. Like you look at shows like, say, Creature Cases, where at the beginning of it's very structural. At the beginning of the episode, there's a creature, it's got a problem, they're on the case, kind of thing. This just starts with them like kids, because I got a few. And if you watch kids, they will... and you probably remember it yourself playing with siblings or friends or whatever, but they just roll from one thing to another. They'll just talk and end up on different tangents, and life just kind of happens. It's not really scripted, it's not really planned, and the interactions are what's really interesting. So I try to just, I'm trying to, in the books and the work, all of my work, I'm trying to just observe. Like even in the songs, they're sort of poppy kind of bad sort of, I'm not an educated musician, so I don't actually know what I'm doing. It sounds funny. I quite like that melody. But they're just observations. I'm not really trying to be too deep and meaningful. I just notice that it's kind of funny wouldn't it be funny if a bee tried to communicate with a bumblebee by dancing because she assumed it's a bee and would understand what she's saying, and that the dance is even a language in the first place. It's just an observation, and you just let it happen, and you go, you'll either connect with it or you won't, I guess. But
Yeah, I thought that was very clever, being that bees do dance.
There's a moment in one of the shows, without giving too much away, where there's the two seagulls, fish and chips. They're identical. They're actually literally identical. I don't know which one's which. And there's a moment, one of the episode's stories is Little Blue's decided that he wants to go for a swim, but the tide's out. So a lot of Big Little Blue as a concept is about, no, not a lot. It is about what happens between, like if you go to the beach, I talk to the school kids about this, and I go, who goes to the beach? And they go, who likes going to the beach for a swim? Hey, who likes going to the beach and for a swim, and then the tide's out? And they go, I go, yeah. Now what do you do? And Big Little Blue's about that space in between, waiting for something to happen. So they're always waiting, not almost always waiting for the tide to come in so he can go for a swim. So Little Blue can go for a swim. And it's in that space when you're waiting for something, like going to a party. I've got a party on this afternoon, like as a kid, my friend's birthday party, and there's that time between getting up and it happening where life happens.
Yeah.
That you don't realise it's actually happening. You suddenly find yourself playing a game or rock pooling, or if you're at the beach, or these boring sort of mundane moments actually become what life is actually about.
Yeah.
While you wait for something important to happen.
Yeah,
there's really cool
so
stuff actually going on.
Kid.
Yeah. And anyway, he wants the tide to come in, so he's a bit impatient, so he decides to bring it in himself, which is mildly amusing to me. But Fish and Chips, there's a moment in there from a dialogue, script writing point of view, where they're watching him and he's trying to do his thing, and they're going, "What are they doing?" And they say, "Well, it looks like he's trying to bring the tide in by himself, but that's ridiculous. You can't do that." He goes, "No, that'll never work." And they go, "Well, you know what the problem is." Meanwhile, the penguins are going backwards and forwards. They go, "You know what the problem is, don't you? Yeah, not enough chips. Not enough chips in their diet. That's what it is. I like chips. Everyone likes chips. Let's go get some chips." And they just fly off. Like they start here and then talk themselves into a different moment, and then they're distracted by it, and they're off doing something else.
Yeah. And
to me, that's real. It's authentic. We do it. I'm doing it in this conversation where we start with a question and I go over here. and it seems natural when you don't, it's just, But that stuff fascinates me. I think people are expecting that there's a process, and that it's supposed to be simple, and that it's supposed to be easy, and that everyone wants something that's like something else. But actually, I think if everyone was to take a moment and look at the stuff, the creative things that really affected them, whether it was a film that made you laugh or a song that you just happened to really like, 9 times out of 10 it's because it's just got something different. You don't actually want the same thing over and over again. We actually want to hear people's voices. We want to hear what their point of view is on the world. It's why, Monet's paintings were so stunning, because but not everyone will connect with them that way. But there's just this, you want to see creative people observe the world and reflect that in their way, and show us what that, in whatever form that takes. The minute you start trying to generalize it and turn it into a few prompts, or make it easy, or bypass, right back at the beginning we talked about the failures and the mistakes and the risk. If you want to bypass the risk, then you're not ever going to make anything I think that's going to be very interesting. It's just going to be safe. And yes, that might sell, or yes, that might be, but I don't think it's going to be remembered much in the process. But
Yeah.
that's very philosophical, isn't it?
Well, yeah. I mean, let's hope that people don't put as much weight on AI created stuff as they do from.
They will, though. I mean, I think
crafted things.
No, I think it's just there's already a pushback in some levels. You see it in the unit. I mean, I think it depends on the way you intend to use it. Like AI as a concept is wonderful. Like the last thing I'd want to do is clean up motion capture. And no interest in that. It's a manual task. If an AI tool can do that, then that's going to be the future of the pipelines. So it's not a generic don't use AI as a thing. But I think if someone is going, I really want to be a writer, but I'm not willing to go through the process of learning to write and making the mistakes and taking the risk and actually internalizing and going, my observation on love is this, based on experience. Big Little Blue, we have a place we go in, haven't been there for a while, not since child number 4 was born, but in Tairua. There's a log in the books and in the series that they sit on. It's just on the beach. The whole thing is basically Tairua. It's just there's a washed up log on the beach. The kids are always playing on it, and it's in the whole story. The whole concept of it is just my experience with kids, or as a kid, going to a Coromandel beach, but without being obvious about that. It's just a beach. And if I go and back to the earlier statements around or ideas around education or force feeding, if I go, this is a Coromandel beach and their stories are based, it's not really, it's only their relationships. It's just who they are in this place. But it's all based on my own experience, which is where my style is coming from, which was that slow revelation, which was that I seem to tell stories this way. These are the things that matter to me. It matters to me when my kids have trouble, and I did. I had a lot of trouble making friends. I'm not the cool kid in school, never was, and still not. But the idea of how do you make friendships? What does that look like? I can only talk about it from my experience or my own observations. But if I try talking about it from a generic point of view and go, well, someone else has talked about it this way, and that seems to make sense to me, so I'm just going to use that to tell. Yeah. You've lost any sense of honesty, authenticity, truth. There's no truth in that. Music's the same. Painting's the same. You just want someone who's just going to give you their truth in their way. We don't want generic. But there'll be plenty of people that'll bypass the risk and use it, and it'll be successful. I've seen a writer, one of our local writers. I find it insulting, personally, to me. But he's used AI to illustrate this sort of novel series. And I just think that's just bypassing the system in the wrong way. It's like self-publishing. Don't bypass the publisher. They have a really important role. If they say they want to publish your book, it's likely it'll sell. Simple as that. It doesn't mean yours won't if you don't, but it does mean you sort of enter these arrangements to bypass an illustrator to do the drawings because you can't do them, but you don't want them involved. You're trying to sort of contain things. I just find that a unethical kind of way of approaching it, and it's a sort of an unreasonable way. If I can't write a novel, then I can't write a novel. I either learn to do it or I don't do it, but I don't go prompting it from somewhere else. Does that make sense?
Well,
because I think that's cheating. I do, and people don't like being cheated. Even the cheaters don't like being cheated.
Yeah, well, my opinion is that if an artist is using AI to create something artistic, then they're probably fine because they know what they're looking at is going to look good. And they know how to prompt to make it look good. But if someone who doesn't have artistic skill is using it to create art and then they're putting it out there, we know it looks bad, but they think it looks good.
I think I know what you're saying, but I kind of agree and disagree. But it's classic Ray. Yeah, nah, very Kiwi. That. It's, to me, it's irrelevant whether you're creative or not. I think it's that you are bypassing the risk that's involved in making the mistakes and getting it wrong.
Yeah.
Every time I've been rejected, every time, or someone's critiqued the work I've done and they've gone, this isn't working, this isn't very good, and sometimes it's blunt. I've had one publisher, editor, years ago, write notes like, yuck.
Yuck. What a horrible thing to say.
This has to go, with an arrow pointing to it. I laugh because I know that particular person was a friend and a colleague and a professional, and it was just funny to me, but others would probably get offended by it. But I think I draw a line. I don't think you can be part way in and part way out. I don't think you can truly be creative and use those tools, because I don't think you're actually, it's too easy. It's not, anything creative is not actually supposed to be easy. It's supposed to be challenging. It's supposed to be difficult. And the ones that are the most challenging, the hardest ones to do, are the ones that actually end up being the best. Yeah.
Well, it's also, I mean, the things that you create, we create art for ourselves, right? First and foremost, you're supposed to be creating things that you love and that you want to make. And
purists are doing that, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I would say, with your Monster series, that was beautifully done, all those music videos and the songs, and you could tell that was a passion project for you, whether it sold well or not. And I've seen videos of you online with kids stomping their feet and clapping their hands to your music, and people loved it.
I've got a song.
Before we go further, because I really liked those books personally, and I really love the songs, and they're ridiculously catchy, and I've had them in my head all week.
Good job.
I went and found a couple of music and literary critics, and I wonder if we can show that video, Jax.
Frankie, which was your favourite of Raymond's monsters?
The blue one with the big horns.
Do you think he should make more?
Yeah?
Definitely?
Yeah.
Teddy, which song did you like the most?
I liked On Our Way.
And what did you like about the song?
The singing.
I'm Susan. I'm raising my cute monsters.
So for anyone who doesn't speak small child, she says, Auntie Susan, Raymond makes cute monsters.
Yeah, I got that. There's a language to children, that's like only parents know.
Yeah, I need subtitles.
Sometimes even the parents don't quite know. Like I often with my work from home dad, but it's particularly with child number 4. She just I could understand what she was saying when she wasn't even saying things. It was just babbling, and because I spent so much time with her. That's really nice.
Yeah. And you won 2013 and 2017 New Zealand On Air Children's Music Video Awards.
Yeah.
For those songs, some of those songs, is that right?
For the videos,
videos.
Not the songs. Yeah. Look, I think I should really just say that I'm a bit of a weirdo though, because they're not commercial things. So you mentioned passion projects. That's actually all they are. Everything that I'm doing is not really about. I don't like to waste my time because I don't have much of it. So I won't work on something if I don't think it's got potential to be marketable or published or whatever. Made or. But the music videos were a knee-jerk reaction to studio work because I just got so sick of the tools. I got so sick of clicking a mouse to make animation happen. I went completely the opposite and I built a stop-motion multi-plane camera. It's at UB now, though. I've given it to the students to practice it, to play with. Because it's... paper cutout stop. It's like animation. It's flying by the seat of your pants. You've got no idea what's going to happen. And it's the opposite of controlled digital, Maya, digital 2D, because those are safe, because you don't have to animate the whole character. You don't have to do the whole thing at once. You just kind of start with the feet if you've got to walk. Worry about pieces. You can pull it apart, you can change it, you can delete, you can undo. There's a whole pile of things. You can't do that with those. And I just wanted to take a breath and go, flawed is okay. It doesn't. So they're not. It's lovely that people, particularly the kids, because that's who it's for, like it. But they're not commercially viable things. They're I just do them for the joy of doing. But speaking of joy of doing in songs, and you mentioned, they quite like some of the songs. So like with Storylines, which is an amazing charity that invites writers, illustrators and what have you. They do these story book tours, and I've done quite a few of those. But the last one, I was showing them songs and the Big Little Blue books and what have you. There's a song called Blue that I wrote, which is in one of the episodes that's been made. And so I get to the end of the talk, and sometimes there's time, or it's not quite lunchtime and they're not quite ready to go, or the teachers are using me as a way to avoid having to look after children for a while, so I'm there. I have had a hall of 700 kids. The song called Blue is about swimming under the water. It's just a relationship kind of song, and Big and Little Blue are singing to each other, and it's just a nice gentle kind of thing. I had 700 kids in several schools in their school hall swimming on their bellies, looking for what was essentially a mermaid from Bubba Lubba.
That's so cool.
And the teachers are looking at me, and I'm on the ground with them swimming around, and with the songs going on, and it's just a silly 1.5 minute moment of just playfulness, and they're looking at me going, this is the first time I think a presenter we've had come to talk to the kids has been rolling around on the floor and they get excited and they start climbing all over you and piling up, and it just
But it's what you love.
But that's what I do. That's why
so
I do these things, and I'd like to be sort of reasonably open about, if you want to make a career, other studios, other people, other creatives will have different stories. Some will be making a fortune out of it. Some will be or they'll have a business model that really works, but I don't have those things. I don't really. I still do it, and I'm able to do it, but it's a challenging industry and career to be in. But I'm not driven by the accolades or the financial success. I just enough to keep it going, and I'm way happier now at the moment because I'm doing things
you work
I want to do.
fully remote now, don't you? Yeah.
Yeah.
So you're directing a TV series remotely.
Yeah, that's an interesting sort of thing that we're doing. Do you want to hear about that?
Yes,
yeah?
absolutely.
That's why we're here. Absolutely. Okay, so COVID hits.
Yes, I remember.
We had Esme was born the day before the first lockdown, so we exited hospital straight into lockdown. And I was at UB on their degree, and I still am actually. I'm just on sabbatical at the moment, but I was teaching, so I was in the classroom in the city, in City Road, in Queen Street. And then COVID hits, and suddenly anyone teaching, schools, whoever, had to access students and learning through online processes. None of us had done that before. Nobody had done it. And I remember the very first time we were doing it, not even knowing how to get the camera to work on the laptop, because I don't use those things. I don't do video. I don't even start on Facebook. So and I was going, this, I don't even know how I'm going to. And I'm also, because Deborah she's a primary school teacher, so she's also having to deal with the same problems, and we've got a newborn in the house, and she's recovering, and I'm teaching, and to give her rest, I'm feeding while I'm teaching, video calls and what have you. And it just became normal to be able to communicate with groups of people via online sort of learning things. And once again, I'm a bit of a weirdo, because you'll probably talk to a lot of people who want to have businesses, want to have studios, and want to have these sort of, they want to be Walt Disney or whatever. I don't ever want to have a studio. I don't want to do that because I know the industry is too fickle for me to be able to sustain that. And then I don't have the desire to do the commercial style work that's just going to be the bread and butter that just pays. I did 20 years of that and I just am unfulfilled by that. I don't want to make content that nobody really wants to see. I'm a bit over that, and that's just my old age really. So when we got the funding for the series, the budget was based on, because the expense can be in bricks and mortar studios are actually expensive because there's overheads that come with it. So to save cost and to make the best quality sort of show, the show I wanted to make, the show that I don't think is being made, or if they're being made, they're made by a very select few. I think Mark Putty's Bad Jelly is one of the few beautiful pieces of quality content. It is
great. I'm interviewing Alex in a couple of weeks.
Just the quality of it is incredible. I do different stuff. Like I'm not. They're very much. That's why Kenneth and Queenie. That's why I'm going. Who is this guy? Because there is talk about dung beetles and anyway. It's more their style than mine. But so some models for studio, from a local funding point of view, it can be challenging to get a budget to work. And some ways to do that are to have, you bring in junior animators to help with the workload because they at their entry level sort of salaries, that's helpful. You can, and that's fair too, I think, because we're learning. There's a craft there, got mentors, the earlier stuff we're talking about. So it's a way to help develop their abilities on a professional. So these kind of sort of systems that are useful. I didn't want to work that way. I wanted to have, because with the BBC series, the Cinema 4D one, Tiny Wonders.
What was it?
It's called Tiny Wonders.
Tiny Wonders, yep.
You won't see it here at Sherlock UK, but
I've seen it on YouTube.
There may be some coming out soon. At some point, it'll be pushed through. I mean, it's just a cute little series, but fundamentally, we were, from an animation production point of view, I was in my studio. Dan, who was a creator director of it, he's in assembly working there. They had seats there. Kev McCulloch, he's working on that at the time. Yep. His daughter was part of that. So they're there, I'm here, BBC, Scotland, it's all over there. And so there was no, bricks and mortar doesn't work. And I'd also been working on Kitty and Lou for that series.
Storyboarding,
storyboarding the series for them. So, and they're in Christchurch, where the studio is, where Stretch is. But I didn't need to be there because, I'm kind of experienced. I know what I'm doing enough that I don't need to be supervised, I suppose you'd say. So there's... not in a staffing kind of way. It's just they go, here's the next thing. I would always deliver, and they never not delivered. And so we with the Big Little Blue series, we've which is changing its name, by the way. It's called Bigsies and Littles. I know because there's Bluey. We had to be. It's funny how those things work actually. But anyway, that's a side. So I'm talking about it like Big Little Blue, but the series has actually got a slightly different title. I wanted to work with experienced people at a sort of budget level where we could attract them to it, because that's obviously with experience you have to sort of allow for that. And it works better for me, I think, for what we're doing.
You've got a lot of senior animators that I know working on that show with you.
They've all got industry. Oh, well, one, we do have a junior animator because we did want to provide opportunities and diversity as well. Like a hugely, I was going to say a fan. I'm not a fan. I just think it's essential to have diverse groups where you need women, you need neurodiversity, you need to allow space for different points of view, cultural points of view to feed into the work you're doing so that it has depth. Otherwise, it's just superficial. Anyway, that's a different topic. We all work remotely. We communicate through Slack. Yeah. We set up a Slack channel, which is how Kitty and Lou did it, and that's why we did it. And everything's run through that. I'm the production manager. I mean, I've got about 5 roles in the production, which is hard. But
Yeah.
there was no need for, when you know the people that are doing the job, you can give them something and you know that they at very least understand what it is you're trying to get them to do, and you don't need to micro sort of manage or I'd say nurture it along.
And what about the junior you were talking about, and going back to mentoring that we were talking about at the start, how are you managing to ensure that you can give that junior the same thing that you gave me when we worked together? Yeah?
That's the flaw in the system. So I'm not going to promote that. So it's, to be clear, it's a remote studio kind of model where everyone is contractors and freelancers, and that's great for everybody because they're all doing other things as well. It doesn't matter to me what they're doing.
Because were you working while Big Little Blue is going on? Are you also working on Kitty and Lou?
Yeah, we were working on the feature film.
Jobs at the same time.
Yeah, there's the teaching in the background. There's
the
graphic novels.
Well,
there's publishing. Yeah, so
you don't really
don't
sleep.
tell everyone.
You don't sleep.
Well, no, I work 7 days a week. I always have. But I mean, but they're all projects that I was going to say they're my projects, but they're not my projects per se. They're projects that I've created and have. So there's a certain desire to do that. So, yeah, from a contracting point of view, it works really well because they've got the freedom to do what they like. It doesn't matter what they do as long as they deliver, and they're all professionals, so they deliver, and that's the difference. But the flaw in that system is that it is communication through videos. It is communication through text, chats and what have you. It's not ever, teaching's the same. It's not ever the same as sitting down next to someone and problem solving together or showing. It's hard to show how to fix something, and that's where that model can fall short because if your team aren't problem solvers on their own, so like they come up against a software issue in their own studio space or their home or wherever they're working from.
Yeah.
And if they can't resolve that by themselves to a certain extent, then it's challenging to get that support to them.
Yes.
If that makes sense. And so from a mentoring point of view with a junior animator, it's hard to teach animation that way. It's hard to teach because, we would experiment. Like when we were working together, we don't always know what the answer is. Sometimes it's kind of like as a director or animation director, which is put that hat on the show, if the animation's not quite right, which it comes back as, everyone's got strengths. There's a lot of dancing penguins in the show, and some people are better at that than others, whereas some people are really good at the dialogue. They understand the subtleties of it. Some are really great at the action stuff, the fast-moving, kind of broad things. If there's something that's not quite working, it's not always easy to just pinpoint it and go, do this, do that, or write a list of notes and then understand what that means. Sometimes you've got to go either sit with them like you would in a studio, or in this case, I go, send it to me. Let me have a look. I don't know what the solution is, but I'm not going to make you go over and over and over again.
Yeah.
I also have rules.
But are you then fixing their problem rather than having them share screen and sort of talk them through it so they're learning? Or do you fix their problem and then go back to them and say,
well,
this is how
from
I
a junior
it?
animated point of view, we'll share screen, you'll educate, basically, and go, here's what you're doing wrong, here's how to do these things. Yeah. So from a junior mentoring point of view, but when you've got, people who are working on the series who have been in the industry for 20 years, they don't actually need that either. Of course, so it's a slightly different, it depends on the situation.
But because I understand the importance of remote work and how much, I love it. We have remote work from home Wednesdays, and so that one day a week saves me so much money in parking and petrol, and because it really adds up when you work in the city, and time, travel, and it's it's really nice. And I don't even have kids, so if I had kids, it would be even better, I'm sure. But for me, I worry that because I had such a great start in the industry, and I had such a great group of people around me, and I learned so much, and I was able to make these connections, and I was able to make all these friends that I'm still friends with, years later. I worry that people starting out, if they're working from home, just sitting by themselves in, their sad little
I
flat.
wouldn't worry too much. I think, so I did want to say, like, from a studio point of view, like, there's rules I put in place for me too. Like, it's a bit like the relationships, the publishers, and there's a team, there's a system that has to be followed, because if you start straying too far from that for whatever reason, like worst, because there's extremes of that. There's the producers, if a producer is worried so much about money that they're worried about the profit that they're taking that out of the production to make sure that exists, then the production sort of struggles to achieve a quality level. The other end of the spectrum is if you've got like creators or directors or whoever who are only interested in perfection and exactly their vision and what they want. If there's no scope and they're changing and or experimenting, trying different things, that takes time and it's cost and all those things. With mine, it's just a blanket one set of notes is all I get.
Yeah.
But you need the right people in place to be able to do that, well, not the right, but you need a certain level of knowledge to do that. So I only allow myself one round of changes if I want more, and I won't make them do it. I want them to keep moving, keep going, and not be bogged down by my indecisions and my experimentations and my...
I do think people having to rehash things a lot...
it's unhelpful.
Makes the job less fun, I think, once you've done a couple of changes or a couple of rounds. And we have certain jobs in our industry where we have to redo them again and again and again and again and again and again and again. And people... And
sometimes you end up back where you started, yeah.
Yeah.
I think there's... Once again, it's just balance. It's just... Some people, I think certainly some of the students I've had, they go, I'm the director on the old sort of capstone production, and they think directing's like waving your hands around and saying, I want it like this, make it so. It's not, that's not what it is. It's actually having a clear vision, articulating that and nurturing that and sort of trying to encourage that out of the team and what they want, and get them to understand what it is you're trying to do and how you're trying to do it. Directing's as much a people process as it is a creative one. But to make something new and interesting, it does, and if you've got that risk, and the risk is so important to quality, to innovation, to all of those other things, that does come with experimentation. It does come with unknowns. It's threshold learning. I've storyboarded some of the episode, all of the episodes for the show. There's moments where I'm going, one of the songs, so the songs are all about a minute and a half long. There's a song called Safe, and it's a sort of gentle kind of melody where the story's about Little Blue. Helen, who's the hermit crab, says to Little Blue, after he gives her a fright and she hides, says, everyone needs a safe place. This is I like it. It just makes me feel safe. I feel unsafe out of my shell. That's why I hide in my shell. And Little Blue suddenly realizes, I don't have a safe place. And she goes, oh, I'm sure you do. Everyone needs one, so you best go find one. Anyway, long story is there's a song called Safe, and normally in a conventional way, it's a music video fundamentally, and you would just cut and you have action, you have all this you'd keep it entertaining, keep it fun, have quick cuts, lots of action. It's sort of, to make it look stimulating on screen so that kids can stare and they're not getting bored. But the song's about the two of them. It's not about where they are. It's them being together. So it's all 1.5 minute, one shot of them moving, singing, dancing, and the set is changing around them as they do that, and it's just one shot, and they're just long shots of, obviously it's timed with the lyrics, but it's not action based. They're just together singing this song, and where they are changes because where they are is irrelevant to this message. It's that they're together. It doesn't matter where they are as long as they're together. Yeah. And so I did that, and when I started it, I was going, the risk. I don't know if that's going to work. Is that going to be boring? Is it going to be entertaining on screen? Will kids watch it? Will they? I still don't really know. But that experimental process, that redoing those notes, those kind of changes, you sometimes have to accept that is also part of the process too. You sort of won't get it right the first time, and even a director or someone with a lot of experience is at some point going to go, I don't really know, what do you think we should do? Let's try that. And it's sort of, so there's a mutual kind of understanding around how that system process of creating on a larger project sort of works. And when you're on your own, like doing a book, that's really hard because there's no one to ask.
Yeah.
So then you're flying by the seat of your pants on the idea that you think it's going to work, and is it? And hence you do it, and you do your mock-up, or you write your book, you send it to a publisher, and you worry about whether it's going to be good enough, whether they're going to accept it, and they do or they don't, and that's what we do. It's just that you can't bypass those processes.
Yeah.
So,
And in setting up these
I didn't
students-
answer the mentoring question. I just,
The
like, how does it work with the junior animator? Yeah.
Well,
It's hard.
I think, it's difficult.
Yeah.
And it's, remote work and mentoring don't easily play together, I don't think.
Not as well. Not as well. They
Yeah.
can, but you still end up hanging up the core or whatever it is, and then you're back to being on your own in that scenario.
And with these students, would you say that there's anything that formal education is sort of not giving them that formal education could do better, or is it
Oh, now we're down. That's a whole different.
is that a dangerous question? Being that
No,
you're
it's
still
not
employed
dangerous.
with them?
No, I think I think I have a unique perspective. Not unique to just me. There will be others, but so I am a industry practitioner. Like I am doing the job. I am creating a TV. It's not my first TV series. It's I work on international productions, and so I know the industry enough as a animator, as a writer, as a director, as a publisher, all of those things. So I know how the industry works. The academic world, like degrees, for example, it's really fascinating because there's this, in my view, everybody, there's a disconnect at times. So your studios will go, why don't the students know how to do this thing? Why are they writing essays? Why aren't they learning this tool? Because that's the tool we're using. Yeah, that's the thing we want to use. And so we want staff, and we want those staff to come in, sit down and work and not have to spend money training and doing those things. That's because they don't understand what a degree actually is. And a degree is not about developing practitioners. It's about developing researchers and inquiry and asking questions and looking for answers and being able to use critical thinking scientific process. And often studios aren't doing that even in their own practice. They aren't critically thinking. They aren't researching enough.
They don't have
creatively.
time for critical thinking. They just got deadlines.
The different pressures. Yeah. So like a students on a degree in animation or an honours degree or whatever, they are not just learning tools and not just learning, like if you think about it, 3 years, let's take a basic degree, animation, in whatever school you go to, university you go to. Let's say someone who's done art at school, they're quite good at art, they like drawing, they think they want to do animation, but they've never done it before, so they don't know what they're doing. They come into a degree. There's a foundation year of learning basic principles and concepts, but there's also a foundation year of learning basic research practice and essay writing and academic writing. So already that year is divided into halves or thirds of, or semesters of, or courses that are covering different things to prepare them for the next part of the journey. The next part of the journey is going, we've got some basic knowledge, now let's start looking at how we can apply that to the next stage. That includes research and asking questions and looking at the way in which the industry functions or the way the tools work. It could be technical stuff like coding or AI or whatever, or it could be creative stuff like researching other filmmakers and other ways of writing or storytelling, or hero's journey if you want to get generic. And but when you think about it, students haven't experienced any of that stuff, so they're learning that. And there's a lot of studio craftspeople that haven't got a clue about what the hero's journey even is as a concept. I know a novel writer who wrote her first novel and discovered it at that point, because her editor was pointing to these sort of rules. So they're learning these other things. And then in their third year, the most important year, is about applying and making that, but asking a question. And questions need to have measurable answers, like in what ways can colour be used to tell a story? And it's not about getting the right answer, it's about answering the question, in what ways can that be done, for example? Or how does the industry apply technology? It was like a specific type of technology. What can that be used for? So the things they're making aren't what studios are doing. Studios are production. They're going, someone's come to us with a concept, or we've got our concept. We want to make it look like this. We just want someone who can sit down and do that.
There's a real mismatch there, because, I mean, what they're learning is going to be helpful for them once they're senior, but what they're learning is not helpful for them when they're a graduate. Is that kind of what you're saying?
Not really. I think it's just an understanding that as a teacher, like if I put a university lecturer's hat on and I'm working with students who want to enter this industry that I work in, I don't care what the tool is, because the tool does right back we started with it.
Yeah.
The tool is irrelevant. What you need to figure out is, what is it you want to do? Where do you see yourself?
Yeah.
And some of them will be technical. Some will be purely interested, I want to do 3D modeling, or whatever. Or I want to use real-time rendering because I've seen it's a cool thing. And that's their focus. But that eliminates them from a studio that's wanting to make all of their shows in Flash or animate.
Yeah.
You know? And then they might stop doing that.
Yeah.
And use a different tool. And so in which case, it's a conflict that happens constantly. It's like this perennial issue that always comes around. The education component, like the qualifications authority, you know, the government sort of side of tertiary education, sort of funding, etc., goes, well, you've got to make stuff that's relevant to the industry, because the industry is where they're going to go. So where are the jobs? What are they doing? How are you training them for that? But then there's these academic problems where you've got, not problems, but the academic components, which are, but research isn't about necessarily industry. Research is about asking questions and finding answers and pushing boundaries and learning new things and then sharing that knowledge. Yeah. So a degree in animation is no different from a degree in horticulture as an academic standard.
It's theory.
It's still practice. It's all practical, but it has a level of academic component to it that all degrees, no matter what discipline you're in, you've reached a certain level of academic knowledge. And that includes researching, citations, referencing, critical thought, analysis, data, and it's all of that stuff is part of a degree. So a person with a degree isn't just a practitioner. And sometimes studios, I think, are looking for purely practitioners. Well, that's an apprenticeship. That's a different learning process.
And then would you say that, in your opinion... Because
I got lots of opinions.
Would you say that everyone has potential, or are some people a straight up lost cause?
Oh, controversial. I did not do well at art at school, fundamentally.
People might have thought you were a lost cause.
No, I was never going to do this as a thing. Yeah. I didn't even know it was a thing. So 30 years ago, I was going to do horticulture. No, when I was a kid, I wanted to be a vet. Well, first, obviously, I wanted to dig up dinosaur bones.
Obviously.
Thank you very much.
Same, actually. Yeah.
Everyone.
Something about those dinosaurs.
I know. There's something big and scary, frightening, and digging. I was good at digging. Yeah. In sandpits. So when I left school, everyone was sort of deciding when they were going to go to university. So I went to the final year, Form 7. I don't know what the heck that is. Yeah, 13 now, I think it is. Still haven't figured that out. And I didn't go to uni. I'd always worked. I had summer jobs ever since I was 12. I used to work on collecting eggs and picking strawberries and... Mm-hmm. And I didn't know what I wanted to do. What I did know was that I wasn't going to go to university unless I knew what I wanted to do. Yeah. And so I was never going to do this. I didn't know it was a job. I just fell into it. I just happened to come across it as a thing. John Ewing was at Freelance Animators, and they had a sort of program of learning, and I didn't even take it on the first year. It was just like, okay, where's the job at the end of it? Same question that all students are asking, or all people are asking. And then I just took a gamble with it, took a shot. And for 30 years I've been expecting it to end and for everyone to realise I'm a complete fraud. I don't know what I'm doing. Sometimes I feel like I do, but so it's not that that I think people are lost causes. I think it's like, unless you're really sure, just I'm going to be a fireman. Like that I had a friend who was going to be in the police force, and he did. That ever since primary school, I'm going to be a police. That's what I want to do, and he got there. I've been interested in there's so many different things, and I don't know what I wanted to do. I just happen to be doing this now.
Yeah.
So if someone knows what they want to do, they'll be fine. If you don't know what you want to do, then I think it's wise to wait until you've don't go from school to school to school to university. I don't think that's the right thing to do if you're unsure, because there's expense at that end, there's time at that end, and year 2 in any degree program is the hardest year, because you've got past the first day fascination and and it's all new and exciting and interesting, and year 2 is when the work starts and you kind of go, in animation, so many people don't realize it's actually work. Like, it's actually a job. It's actually hard.
Yeah.
It's actually tedious. My wife, when I was making those stop motion, the monster videos, I'm on my knees in front of this thing, just minutely shifting pieces of paper and taking a photograph.
I think it's always...
And she just said, what are you doing? This just mental. Like, it's just, looks so boring.
You look back on it as fun once it's finished, though, right? You're like, I had a lot of fun creating that. But
well, yes and no. I mean, I don't. Yeah, I think it's not always fun. I think you don't. It's just like the end result looks like it's fun to make. But when you're in the thick of going, there's a deadline, there's a blank page, and I've got to put an idea on this, and it has to work. Yeah. That's work. That requires you to draw on experience and knowledge and creativity and a whole pile of things that. So the lost causes are usually the ones that are just simply not serious anyway. Yeah. There's someone that I've known who's been in the industry for 20, 25 years. He started when I started, and he was considered a lost cause because he just wasn't that great. Yeah, like he just compared to others, you know, there were others there that were just, talented people. I don't have talent. I don't have I have to work really hard.
That's
but you're looking
circular.
but you're looking at the end product.
Talent and some.
No, but you're looking at the end product. It's just that I have to fight. Like every drawing is hard. Everything is a challenge.
You work hard.
I have to, because I nearly failed art at high school. I don't have the natural... I like doing it and I like the challenge, so I push myself through those things. But, and so there are talented people. I think sometimes the lost causes, in my experience, from an education point of view, from an animation production point of view, it's the ones that are the most talented that are actually the lost causes. Yeah. They tend to be the ones that don't take it seriously. It's always been easy to them. Yeah. They've always been the best at drawing in their class. They've always done great work and draw images, and everyone's gone, look how wonderful they are. Oh, you're so talented, everything. And that's all they've ever heard. And then someone like me comes along and looks at their work and goes, it's not bad, but here's where you need to look at improving it. It can be improved by these things. Yeah. And we had one film in one of our capstone projects that was the most disappointing thing. Well, not one, it's happened often. The ones that are usually the best are the ones where the students are at that, they're not the most talented, but they really want this. Yeah. I've watched talented people fall away because they weren't really keen on the effort that is actually required regardless of your ability. You know, you're only as good as whatever it is you're making right now. So
would that be your advice to anyone starting out, that it's just damn hard work?
Well, that makes it sound like you shouldn't do it. Yeah, it is. You're right, absolutely right. But I mean, I think it's that talent is not everything, and it's also technical skill is not everything. And that's why I love the degree. Like I can say that, like I did my 2 master's degrees back to back with 4 kids, and working full time and working on production. So I was multitasking these 2 things. I didn't go to university. I stepped straight into a degree, into these master's degrees. I'd never written an essay in my life for the first thing. One of my academic supervisors said, I need you to write a literary literature review on a text. And I had to go and find out what that was. I didn't know what that was because I hadn't done that degree
Academic
training.
writing is very hard when you're new to it, yeah.
Well, I figured it out though, and of course I was old enough and mature enough, and I wanted it to do it. So, and I got there and went through that process. But one of the things I've learned is that the critical thinking, the questioning, the challenging of information, the not accepting things on face value, which is what research is really about, to a certain extent, and getting a result, looking for a result, and being focused on getting the result that answers the question, not being distracted by going off down a tangent. It's about going, I'm trying to find something out, and I'm going to use my craft and my work to explore that answer, and then I'm going to present and show people what I discovered, and I'm going to share that. That complements production, studio, creativity, and it adds way more depth to the things you're making, because the danger of not thinking that way is you tend to look at what's being done from a studio perspective. And you could look at Bluey and go, billions of dollars, wonderful, best show ever made. It's a fantastic show. Rich was working on it. I don't know if you met Rich. He was with us. Yeah.
I have. Yeah.
You know, like you look at the people, Mark as well. Mark was on it, and the desire to go, I want to make something like that, is so strong from an industry point of view because it's so successful. But that's, in my personal view, is not the way to look at it, because they've done that. You need to know, you need to find somehow what the next thing is like that's not like that. And that's where those 2 worlds, the sort of learning you do on a degree and the production side of things, complement each other really well. Yeah. And I'm always personally challenging my work. I don't just write it and go, it's good because I did it. You know, like
I'm a genius.
I don't. I think the opposite. I expect things to fail. I expect them to be rejected, and I want the feedback, and I want someone to say, it's not good enough. And then I go, what are they seeing that I'm not seeing? Yeah. And usually I can see it.
And grow. Yeah.
And that risk and pain is where I think the quality and the originality comes from. I mean, look, KPop Demon Hunters.
Oh, yeah, I watched that the other day.
I couldn't even come up with that idea. I go,
it's wild, eh?
Why would that work? But, my son and the songs and the dancing, he's just all over it.
I thought the animation, the expressions, and the
whole thing's just
brilliantly
done.
But
the concept just seems so.
I mean,
like if you got
K-pop
Demon Hunters, exactly. It's like you go, that seems so saccharine as a concept. Like it's just like, K-pop's really popular, so let's Demon Hunter. Yeah, well, it's like, what if we put snakes on a plane and just, you know what I mean? It feels like that. But in the right hands, questioning, getting under the relationships, getting under the reason why this story might happen, why that music might be appropriate, why that story could be told, how it could be told, is just, that's Nimona. Same thing. It's just brilliant, contemporary. And you look at talent, going back to the question about, students in the future and what you look at the Willoughbys, Mitchells versus the Machines. It started with Cloudy with a Chance of Meatball and spilled over into the Lego films and whatever.
So good.
Those are, like, Willoughbys is brilliant because the studio, no, not the Willoughbys, sorry, although it is brilliant, Mitchells versus the Machines as a film, one of the things I love about it is not the film, it's that the studio took a chance with young people, and it's full of them. It's like their vision of the world. It's not 9 old men from Disney going, stories look like this.
Yeah.
Because that's not what the world is now. It's full of memes. It's full of their own point of view, their own sense of humour, their own joy of the way they see the world. And that is what we want to see. They don't want to hear it from me.
Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs is one of my favourite animated films because it's just so out there. It takes you into a whole different world that's completely different from
the animation.
What you expect.
It's like it's all this linear kind of slide into position kind of thing. It does it goes into the joy of making something. The Lego films are just such a brilliant way to look at the story, but yet it's so obvious. They're just playing. It's not even real. It's just the imagination of this real world environment, and we just happen to be in it, and it becomes what it is.
Yeah, so
and
cool.
the Spider-Man, Spider-Verse stuff as well. I think, when you... So I'm less worried about... what I'm trying to say is I'm less worried about the younger generation. I'm more worried about me. Because there's a point where... I'm 53 now. So the reality is that my view of the world as I like it or as I think it is not what my children are necessarily experiencing.
Yeah.
And there's going to be a point where unless I can connect with that in some way, I'm not going to connect creatively with anything I make with them. But I do know enough about the universal... Because there's different, once again, it's just flavour. This is how I like to do things. Silly, contemporary kind of nonsense stuff. There's lots of crazy, zany, silly, childish, fart joke kind of stuff out there. And it's popular and people love it. And it's not, for me, I know that as long as I can, as long as I can focus on the relationships and the things that are universal to everybody. It doesn't matter what age you are. Then as long as that's there and there's that sort of truth in it and there's a perspective on that, it's usually going to sort of resonate in some form. It's when you start to, I think, sort of pander to what you think people want instead of going, well, what would I want? What would I like? The songs I've written for the series, they're not like a musician would look at them and go, oh, fortunately we've got a producer who's sort of given them a level perspective on everything, changed some of the flavour a little bit, some of the, limited the palette down to given it a sort of tone for the show. There's a whole bunch of producing music is just a dark art. I don't understand it, and that's why I'm not very good at music, but at the end of the day, they're just simple melodies that I like. I like a simple melody. I don't need it to be complex. I love it when other people are complex.
Is there a song in each episode, or is it just? Oh yeah. Yeah. Nice.
Yeah. Well, sort of, because from an industry point of view, it's probably the worst thing you can do. Because it's translating that. Like if you've got international rights, makes it challenging. Because if the songs are written in English and it goes over, it's hard to do. But the series has there's a reo Māori version of the shows, and it's that in itself is fascinating to just listen to and watch. It's like I've seen some of the Nigel's handling that side of things just because I'm busy trying to make the show. But he sent through a few sort of examples of the voice actors, and they're different actors. Like we got comedians doing all the voices for that. I couldn't have asked for it. It's so real, authentic to me. Yeah. It's just they're not even trying. And it was funny because we had, one of the talent was I'm rambling, but she has done a lot of cartoon voices. So she kind of walked in and started slipping into cartoon voice performance. And I just it was so hard to go, she got there and it's beautiful. She's the perfect voice, but I asked for her out of the list that Nige gave because when she speaks, there's a gentle purity to her as a person. And all of our voice talent hasn't been hired because they can act. They're comedians, most of them. That just gives them really good timing. But they're there because of who they are. And we haven't strayed from that. I've written them into it. Once I got the voices in place, like particularly Hopper, because Sam Smith is the voice of Hopper. And he's just next level energy. It's just who he is. And the minute I heard his voice and got that together, I had to go in and rewrite the script for him so that he could say it, so that he could be himself without forcing out, saccharine dialogue that's just sort of shunting the story down the path. They're just being themselves. Yeah. There's some beautiful sort of moments in it. And
when does this come out so that everyone can see it? You're not sure yet?
No. Well, it's well, I've got to finish it now. About 3 weeks ago. No, it's we'll be completing the production probably the end of the month, beginning of next month. And from there, it sort of depends on the sort of broadcast sort of thing, sort of process.
So
but it's
year,
not. It's not.
Or next year?
Oh, it'll be this year.
This year?
Definitely
okay,
this year.
Great. So it's August.
I would
now
imagine
when
it'll
we're
be.
recording.
It'll be close to August, September, maybe around the September, October sort of phase of things. I don't know, but it's not set in stone because it doesn't need to be actually because of the way the broadcasting's been set up. In the old days, there'd be time slotted, allocated for it if you were producing for a moment, like commercials. And if it's not there, you're in trouble. Yeah. This is slightly different.
So the show will be released later this year. It's August now, but in the new book that you are doing, Kenneth and Queenie, the second book of this, will be released later this month. So it will actually be available by the time this episode airs, which would be great for everyone. And Ray, because we're coming to the end of our time and I'm still on cue card 1.
I told you. That's what happened with Benny.
I have 7 cue cards.
Let's cut to the end and we'll pretend we answer the other questions. Oh, sorry. I knew, I warned you.
I'll just go through and see if there's a couple that we haven't, because we've actually covered most of it.
Good. Okay, so the rambling was okay.
So...
It's my head, Like I can flit about.
Done. All of that is done. Okay, here's one. We'll do 2 more questions. So, Ray, for somebody who might be sort of maybe senior in the industry and looking to sort of mentor young creatives, what sort of mindset shift might they need to have to be able to do that effectively?
Ooh, that's a hard. I think mentoring, teaching is it depends on who you are and how you approach. Like I think it's like there's different teaching styles. Like people have different sort of personalities, different ways of sort of explaining things or whatever. I think I would explain it. I'd use the example of the way I direct animators, which is kind of very similar to what I do with students. I mean, from a teaching point, there's the basic knowledge, like there's the thing you need them to know, like press that button because that makes it look like that, which is what we want. So do that thing. And then there's the peripheral, the whys and the hows and the rationales around, the reasons for doing certain things a certain way or the reasons for not doing things or looking for answers. And then the other one is probably the what are you trying to do? Like sort of, so you're supporting someone else's input, like from a student point of view, that's what teaching is. It's our capstone films. I don't write and direct their films. Some lecturers will. I don't. I have no interest in that. I just want them. I want to help them make their film. So, what's your film about? What are you trying to do? And then we work that way. But if I'm working with animators and I've given them a shot, and so I've got a specific thing in my mind on what I think I want. I've got, and it's a general idea. It's not necessarily precise. It's a moment. I've got a basic idea. There's a board there. We know what we're doing. Hit the mic. I've got a board there and I've given you that, and then they animate that, or like you were doing with backgrounds. And it comes back. I think the first, and it's different. The thing I don't do is force change. Unless it's really necessary, like unless there's like a story reason it can't be different, or there's a technical reason. We have to have this at this point because of the way that sits against the next thing. But if it's just come back and it's creatively different, or it's technically a little bit different, not quite what I was expecting, I think the way to approach mentoring is to not go force change, is just go, someone has put time and effort into trying to resolve the problem I've given them, and they've done it this way. Why have they done it that way? It could be because I didn't give them enough information. It could be that they've gotten creative and decided they wanted to try something different. To me, those aren't reasons to force change. You have to evaluate look at what they've done and go, yeah, but is it good? Like, is it work? Will it work? And if it's not quite working, how can I make what they've done better or work better? Or if it's different and it's creative and it's interesting and it's not what I'm expecting, go, that's different and interesting and not what I would have done. Let's use that. Let's go. But it needs a few tweaks. Let's look at how we can fix that, how I can show you how to fix that and keep your work. Because one of the most disillusioning things, I think, in any production process is when someone just says, I don't like it. Or someone says...
Which happens a lot. Yeah.
And or they're just mean about it. They're not recognizing that person, whoever it is, student, experienced technician, junior animator, whoever they are, has just spent, assuming most of them do, all of their effort and energy over a day, 2 days, a week, or whatever it is, to try and resolve your problem and put their heart into doing that. Most people are doing that. It's just not helpful to push that away. And even if it is wrong and it needs to be fixed, it's also not helpful to go, just give it to me to do, unless there's a sort of understanding about why that's happening.
Yeah.
Which we talked about earlier. The reason I do it with our experienced animators is because they don't need the hassle.
Yeah.
Because I'm going to go backwards and forwards because I don't know the solution. I need to experiment with it, and that's my pain, not yours. So that's a different situation. But yeah, you have to remember that these are people who are trying, and just give them the information. They're not a threat to your career.
Yeah.
I think with my students, when we start our year 3, first class, you guys are going to make a film by the end of the year. You're going to do a research project. You're going to make a thing. You're going to work. Here's how this is going to work. In the production, the only thing that matters is the work itself. No one is going to remember the complicated relationship drama, the student that didn't turn up most of the time while someone else was doing all. No one is going to notice any of that. They don't get. They're going to look at the work and they're going to judge whether they like it or they don't. That's it. I think from a mentoring point of view, it's the same thing. If you have to remove it from a personal, it sounds contradictory, but from what I've just been saying, but you have to stop it from being a personal thing. Like personal includes, I want it a certain way. It has to be that way. You separate all the personal and go, the product is at the forefront of everything we're doing. Is it good? If it's different and good, that's good. That's it. That's it. It doesn't need to be different.
Yeah.
If there's learning involved where they've kind of not missed the point, then you have to first start looking at going, what didn't I say? What don't they understand? What have I missed? Because most people aren't trying to make mistakes, I find. They're not trying to do it wrong.
No.
Do you know what I mean? Like they're actually trying their best to do really good work.
Yeah.
They just haven't quite got there. And it's just, usually they just need some time, need some effort, someone who cares,
Yeah.
but looks at it from their point of view instead of it's just rubbish. Because some people will do that. They'll look at it and go, I just don't like it. It's just not very good, and that's crap.
Yeah. And do you think studios should be building mentorship in or training in as sort of a formality in the workflow, or do you think it should always be a bit more organic within a studio setting?
I don't know if I could say it should or it shouldn't be one way or another. I care.
Yeah.
I care about people that... I don't want people to struggle like I had, because I'm not talented. I've had to work and I had to learn things, and it was a long journey. And back to not being worried about the younger generation, they turn up at animation school, some of them, but on a degree, already knowing how to animate. They've already seen the YouTube videos. They've already learned the software. I started with it. I was a farm kid. I didn't even know how to hold a pencil properly, let alone start drawing with. So, they come in with a knowledge that's already there. Mentoring, I think, it's not something I consciously do in the sense that I go out and go, I'm going to teach everyone everything. I just think that if we're trying to make a thing and people are trying to help you make that thing, and they need help to do that, and they need to learn stuff, and they're at certain levels, then they just need to be given everything you can. And the more they get, the more they put in, and the better they feel about what they're doing, and the better the production work, better the people are, the better just the holistic environment is better when people are seen and given time. It's just as simple as that. So I don't know, but some studios may need it from a training point of view, but I think we're all learning anyway.
Yeah.
So I need to be mentored as much as anybody else. So, yeah. So I don't know if it's a yes, they should, or no, it's not. But I do think the workplace and the workplace sounds so formal, but the studio environment, the people and the product will always improve with a little bit of less expectation that it's a contractual arrangement of employer-employee or a director and animator or hierarchies, and all of those things are irrelevant. Interesting for the series, we're not looking at having, in the credits, we're probably not going to have titles. Like I'm probably not going to have directors' titles and things. We're just going to this was made by these people because they're all contributing so many different things, and it's actually kind of
that's nice.
Irrelevant. Depends on what others want. They may want the credits because screen credits are valuable to career stuff. But I don't think it's important to turn things into a hierarchy around everything. I think that the work will be better if people invest a bit of time and energy into helping people that want to get better.
Yeah, well, nice.
But that's just me.
Yeah. Well, Raymond, we've run out of time, but it's been
I
so
bet Fraser,
nice.
He was an hour and a half, wasn't he? But look,
Fraser
I've gone
was
an hour over.
You did. So it was really nice to have you on
30 years,
today.
too much to talk about. Yeah.
I mean, it's always great catching up with you, but to be able to sit with you and actually pull out all of those
Extract
insights.
all of that.
Yeah.
I hope some of it made sense. But thank you for asking me. I wouldn't normally.
No, it's been great, and I mean, your stuff's amazing, and it's been really good to be able to acknowledge that, and and I hope that everyone gets a chance to see it all. So.
Yeah, one day soon.
Yeah,
maybe we get to make more.
Yeah,
that's the sort of next goal. Certainly with Big Little Play.
Well, Ray, thank you very much.
Thank you.